Ready to unlock epic orbit shots with your drone? I'm going to show you exactly what an orbit is and how to fly one manually, just like a pro. Plus, I'll give you some simple tips that will elevate your drone footage instantly. Let's get started. So first thing first, what exactly is an orbit shot? Well, think about it like this. Imagine that your subject is at the center of a clock face and your drone is flying in a perfect circle around the center point while keeping the camera focused on your subject the entire time. The drone is going to maintain a consistent distance while rotating around the point of interest. The magic here happens because while the drone is moving in a circular path, your subject stays in the center of the frame. Now this creates a really dynamic, almost like three-dimensional reveal of your subject and the surrounding. It's like you're peeling back layers of the scene in order to show some context and some of the scale. You'll see orbit shots everywhere, in real estate videos to showcase properties, in travel content to highlight a landmark, even in action sports to follow different athletes. It's gonna become like a big signature move because, well, it just looks incredibly professional and very cinematic. So here's how you do it. You grab a drone, grab a controller, and what we're gonna do is we're going to do a rotation at the same time as we're doing a sideways movement with the drone. And that means we're gonna use two different sticks here. We're gonna use the right stick in order to move the drone sideways. This is how we get established into the maneuver. And we're going to use the left stick in order to yaw or turn the airplane, rotate the airplane around the vertical axis right here. So step number one is to understand that we have to go sideways with the drone first before we start our rotation. You don't have to, but it's a good way to get established into the shot. I'm going to use this big red gazebo that is right here that you can see in the shot to keep it in the center. Keep in mind that the sideways movement, which we're going to do using the right stick, and I'm going to do mine to the right. I'm going to do a counterclockwise rotation in this case. That right stick movement here is going to set the speed at which you are going to do your rotation. This is not the left stick with the yaw. That's not going to set your speed. This will set your speed. So I'm going to start to establish here into my turn by going to the right, and you'll notice that the pergola is going to start moving away from the center of the image, which is fine. That's when I introduce my left stick to go to the left to keep the object right in the center. My right stick stays in the same position. My left stick is doing all the work to keep that object right in the middle of the frame. Now, I'm pretty far right now. The further you are from the object, the better it's going to be. And I'm keeping my line of sight as I'm going around, but what I'm doing is very, very gentle movement with the left stick to keep that object right in the center. One thing that I do want to mention is that I have a tiny little bit of forward stick as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to do an ellipse if you want and get further away from the object. So on the right stick, I'm going forward a tiny little bit so that I don't get any further away. And that's it. I'm really established right here. There's not a whole lot more that you have to do. Notice how I'm kind of going away from it now. I can raise the camera and then kind of reveal at the same time. And yeah, that's kind of how you finish this formation. Now, the drone is right on top of us because I did kind of an elliptical coming closer to the object, revealing what was in the background right here. That's a bit more advanced of a technique, but something that you can definitely incorporate into your footage. If I go to the 3x mode, this drone has a 3x lens, which is going to give us a slightly different perspective. Now, you notice what happens here is I'm a little bit too high because we can't see the stuff in the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop. We have a visual observer that's looking at the same time. I know there's rocks on the right side, but there's no rocks on the left side. So I'm going to do that rotation on the opposite direction here, okay? I'm going to do 3x again. I can bring my background into the shot. I'm going to go down a tiny little bit more, just like this, okay? Now, do you see the background? I'm going to focus right here on the island, and I'm going to go to the left with the right stick. Right stick goes to the left, and now opposite stick with the left stick, and I'm going to keep that island right in the middle. And you notice what happens is that the background is going to be moving very fast. That's the parallax effects that we love and that you see in movies. That's just a really cool effect. Now, you can go a little bit faster, so I'm going to go faster, and there you go. Now, the orbit is not the only cool drone shot, so head over to the link in the description. Check out the free course that we put out. It's called a Cinematic Drone Footage Playbook. We'll see you there. Here's another technique of something that you can do is add some altitude, some climbing or descending. Now in this case, you notice that there's two things here. We have a tree right in the middle of the shot, and then in the back, we have a cool mountain that's called Granite Mountain. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do a little bit of an orbit like this, and then I'm going to kind of reveal what's in the background. So I'm gonna start
first off, I want to make sure that I don't hit these trees. So I'm just going to get a little bit closer to them right here, because that's going to be the beginning of my shot. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to take this tree right in the middle, put that in the frame, okay? And I'm going to do an orbit to the right. And as I'm doing the orbit, I'm going to be climbing. And as I'm doing this, I'm actually not going to move my camera. I'm just going to use the position of the camera right now to reveal what is in the background, okay? So I'm going to do right stick going to the right to get established into that right sideways movement. Left stick in the opposite direction. So left stick is going to go to the left, but also at the same time, I have to climb. So left stick is going to go up ever so slightly. You don't want to go too fast. You don't want to go too crazy with that one. So right stick to the right, and then get established with a left turn and a little bit of climb at the same time. Now I started a little too close to the tree, so you notice the mountain is going away, but it's fine. I can reveal the rest of the background here. There is more mountains, and as we keep climbing, I can also reveal a little bit more. Now what I did here is I get closer to my subject as I'm doing the rotation, so I have a right stick to the right and forward a tiny little bit, and then here we go. We're revealing the background. So this is kind of a more advanced technique, but again, it's all about being very smooth. You have to go and make very tiny adjustments as you go, as you move forward, and same thing on the opposite side. Try it a couple times. It's going to take some practice, but there's no reason why you can't get it done. Let's do one more just to do a tighter movement. So I'm going to go closer to this tree. We use that tree a lot because we used to film around here all the time. And I'm going to do a full reveal of the lake that's behind it. So if I position myself right here, if I yaw to the right, you notice that the lake is all the way back here, but it's not very visible right now because it's hidden because we're too low. So I'm going to go and rotate around this object. I'm going to do a rotation to the left, okay, clockwise. So I'm going to use the right stick to the left and the left stick to the right, and climbing at the same time and going a little bit forward as well. So let's do this. We're a little bit closer, so it's going to be a little bit more sensitive. There you go. I'm moving here. I'm going to start to climb at the same time. And then now that I have my pace and my movement, I'm not moving anything else. I'm just letting the flight controls do their thing and reveal. It's going to be nice and smooth if I do this. Now, I want to keep the lake right here, so my right stick, I'm going back to a more neutral position. I'm still moving forward because I want to reveal towards it. And there we go. Now we have the lake right in the shot. I could have added another one. That's like 5 movements. If you wanted to play with the camera at the same time, that would have been very cool. This is more of like a corkscrew, if you want, than it is of a pure just orbit, but it morphs into this once you get into a more advanced type of movement, if you want. So go and practice at home. This is going to take a lot of practice.
Some common mistakes here to avoid. The first one is moving too fast. You want to be smooth, you want to be slow, you want to be methodical, and that wins every single time. The next one is forgetting to check your surrounding for obstacles. This is how you end up in a tree. Definitely not what we want to see here. The next one is not maintaining a consistent speed throughout the entire orbit. This is going to show in post when you do your editing, so try to avoid it. And the last one is fighting the wind instead of working with it. Now, manual orbits are great when you want to have complete creative control, but most modern drones now have an automated orbit feature that can make it a lot easier for you, especially when you're starting. Let me show you what's available here.
So here's how you do it. Now, depending on your drone, this might be a little bit different, but in most cases, you're gonna find a subject, which in this case is me, and we're gonna go on the controller and highlight the person on the screen. Notice I just touched the screen. Now you see that the drone is kind of moving the camera around. Now you notice we have 2 options, active track or POI. In this case, POI is what we want to do. We have an arrow right here, which means we're going to decide which direction we want to turn. I'm going to go in this direction right here. So I'm moving the arrow, I'm moving the little dot. Now I'm going very fast right now, so I'm going to slow it down by moving the dot back on that full arrow. So if I go fully to the tip of the arrow, then it means that the drone is going to go at the maximum speed. If I go a little bit slower, then I'm going to go closer to the middle right here. So now it's slowing down even more, and I'm going to go even faster. This is the maximum speed right here. So you notice it goes pretty quickly. It's going to go all the way around us, but there's nothing for me to do. Now, if I wanted to go a little bit further away, I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to hit any trees if I do that. I'm going to go and move the stick back just like this and then climb so we don't hit a tree. That was pretty close. And there you go. Now I can go even further back. Or I can come closer. further back, or come closer. I can even keep climbing, just like that. And keep climbing and keep climbing. And you notice what the subject keeps me, the drone keeps me right in the middle of this. Now there's a drone flying there, so I'm gonna keep an eye on that as well. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit so I don't get too dizzy right here. But you get the idea. I can also even swap the direction in which it's going by going back over here. So this gives you a ton of flexibility for you to do anything around that object, getting closer, getting further, climbing and descending, without really having to worry about the stick movement and keeping everything nice and smooth. Now, don't overuse it. Learn how to do it manually. It's gonna give you a lot more flexibility to do what I did earlier, which is that climbing kind of like in a corkscrew, revealing you can't really do that in this case without, well, a whole lot of pain, quite frankly.
Some drones can even orbit moving subjects using the active track. So if you've got a person walking or a car driving or even a boat on the water, the drone can track the subject and orbit around it while you are moving. It makes it actually very easy to follow these objects that otherwise would be very difficult if you do it manually. And for you advanced pilots, apps like Litchi or even the DJI mission planning tool, for example, are going to let you create custom waypoints in order to do the orbit. Now you can plan complex flight paths that might include multiple orbit points, altitude changes, or even speed variations. This is perfect for when you're doing commercial work and you need to have repeatable, very precise shots. With these automated modes, you get very precise control over several factors. One of them is the orbit speed, which usually is measured using degrees per second, and then also the radius measurement. Now you want something tight, like a 15-foot orbit, yep, you can do that. If you want something wider, like a 200-foot orbit, that can actually take several minutes to complete, so keep that in mind when you fly, but no problem to do with these automated modes. The orbit shot isn't just a one-trick pony. There are different ways that you can be creative with it. For example, you can use a reveal orbit. You're going to start tight on the subject and then gradually increase the altitude during the orbit in order to reveal the surrounding landscape. This is perfect for showcasing how, like, a building fits into an environment, for example, or a person fits into an environment. Then we have the portrait orbit. You're going to keep your subject large in the frame while orbiting in order to create an almost like perfect portrait style shot that is going to show multiple angles of a person or an object. Then we have the speed ramp. You're going to start your orbit slow and then gradually increase the speed, or vice versa. Now this is perfect to create some very dynamic energy into your movement. This is something that you can do in post. I would recommend that you shoot the entire scene at the same speed so that you can just speed it up afterwards. You can also do multiple altitude orbits. Now you're going to do this, the same orbit basically, from different altitudes and then edit them together for a very unique perspective shift. You can also do what's called a golden hour orbit. As you can imagine, you're going to time your orbit for that golden hour. You're going to get those incredible rim lighting effects as the sun moves across the subject. Now, don't be afraid here to also use your zoom and fly at a low altitude. I love to do these where you can get some very great parallax effects on the subject itself and on the objects that are behind it in the background. Here are a couple bonus tips for the orbit shot that you want to consider. First off, always check that your battery is full or close to full before you start the orbit. Nothing worse than having to do an emergency landing or in the middle of a shot or stop your shot because you don't have enough battery. Also, you want to scout your location first and identify any obstacles like trees, for example. Power lines, very dangerous as well because you're not going to see them as you do that rotation, or even some buildings that might interfere with your flight path. Also, the weather is very important here. Light winds are going to be okay, and they can add some organic movement to your shot, but anything about 15 knots or something too gusty is going to make your orbit less smooth and much more challenging. Also, don't forget about your camera settings. Make sure that you use manual exposure for your shot so that it doesn't become overexposed or underexposed as the lighting conditions are going to change as you do the orbit. Also, you can use a circular polarizer that's going to help reduce some of the glare, especially if you're flying near water where there is water in the background, and that's also going to increase the color saturation a little bit. Likewise, you can use an ND filter to make sure that you have the right amount of light getting into your camera as you're doing your video. Make sure that you shoot at the highest resolution possible and at a frame rate that your drone can support. You can always crop all of that or slow down the footage in post, and that can add a lot of detail that wasn't there initially if you had a lower resolution.
All right, it's time to put your skills to the test. Grab a drone and go flying.